Hello ladies and gentlemen, once again welcome on board the Waypoints Aviation, and this is our Airbus A320 full flight simulator. So this is going to be episode 3 in our series of how to fly your Airbus A320, and today we're going to do a full flight. In our previous video I showed you how to do the MCDU programming. That was episode 2, and in episode 1 I showed you how to get the entire cockpit ready from cold and dark to being ready and fully initialized. So this is episode 3. We're going to jump right into it. I've just fired up the simulator, and what we did was we turned on the batteries, made sure we had at least a minimum 25.5 volts in each of them, and then I engaged external power, and basically that fired up the cockpit. Everything's on. Well, almost everything. Just have to turn on a few more things over here. So I'm just going to turn on the radios. That's this one over here, and the first officer's radio, and coming up to the overhead panel, going to turn on the third occupant radio as well. After that, just going to do a few quick scan flows. I just want to make sure that both wipers are turned off. They are. Alright, that's right over there. Wiper in the off position, in the off position. Let me get some lights going over here. And then coming down here, we want to make sure that the landing gear lever is in the down position, locked, and 3 green lights over there. Thrust levers are at idle. Parking brake is on. Speed brake is stowed retracted. Flaps are at the 0 position. Both engine master switches are in the off position, and the engine mode selector is normal. Want to make sure the weather radar is turned off. We don't want to be microwaving any people out there. And also want to make sure that the transponder is on standby, altitude reporting is off, and up here as well on standby. So that's pretty much a quick pre-setup. And of course, before I jump into programming the flight plan and preparing the aircraft for departure, just want to do a few more things on the overhead panel, and then I want to start the APU, because as of right now I'm running on external power. I'd like to have internal power going, and this is Dubai, so it's going to be a little warm. I want to make sure we got some air conditioning going as well. So I'm just going to do some flow checks right now, and then get the rest of the cockpit ready. So continue on with our pre-flight. So we're going to come up here to the overhead panel. Remember, the flow panel is the flow pattern, I'm sorry, for the Airbus is bottom to top, left to right. So we're going to go across this panel right this way, and then we're just going to make some very quick checks. All right. So firstly, I want to make sure the crew supply is on. You can see down there it's in amber, which means it's not on. So we're going to turn it on right over there. Then we want to turn on the ground controller for the CVR. That's this panel right here. Ground controller is on. Gonna do a quick CVR test. Hold down that button. There's our sound. Test is good. Coming up here, Captain Purser in that position right there. And coming up to the IRSs, we want to make sure they're all in the nav mode and that the IRSs are aligned, which they are. Next, coming down here, we're at the gate, so the only lights we need as of right now outside the aircraft are the navigation and logo lights. Gonna turn those on. Then I need the seatbelt signs and no smoking on. Refueling is completed of the aircraft, so we can turn these on. Seatbelt signs on, no smoking on, and we're gonna turn the emergency lights into the arm position. Scrolling right up, we want to make sure landing elevation is in auto. No lights over here, that's required. We've got pack 1 and 2 showing fault, but that's because there is no airflow right now to the aircraft. We're going to fix that pretty quickly. And then you've got the Gen 1 and 2 showing showing fault, I'm sorry, but then that's because the IDGs are offline and the main engines are offline. So once we start the main engines, those lights will be extinguished as well. We've got the fuel panel up there. All the fuel pumps are off. We need to turn them on. So going from left to right, gonna turn on each fuel panel. We want to check that the hydraulic panel is okay. No lights means no problems. And then up here, I'm gonna do an APU fire test. Gonna hold down on the test button. Gonna see the lights. So that's the test done. So now we can go ahead and start the APU. Right up here, we've got the APU master switch. We're gonna put it on, and then we're gonna hold down the starter for 3 seconds. There we go. That's gonna bring up the APU page, and then the APU is gonna come online in just a couple of minutes. So as you can see now, the APU has started and it is available. We can confirm by over right there. APU is available. Looking up on the APU panel as well. What was an on button in blue is now become a green available light. So we can now turn on the APU bleed, get some air conditioning to the aircraft, and you're gonna see the pack 1 and 2 lights go from fault to off, and there they are. So now we've got air conditioning going in the airplane. Happy days. It's gonna be nice and cool in the airplane, in the cockpit, in the cabin. Nobody's gonna be complaining. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to start preparing our flight plan, and I'm going to talk to you about the flight plan once I jump onto my computer. In the previous video, as an example, I showed you how to program a flight plan from Dubai over to the Maldives, but then I realized that's going to be a almost 4-hour flight, and I'd like to have a more shorter distance that I want to do for the purpose of this training flight. So we're going to fly today from Dubai, which is where we are right now, to a nearby country called Oman. Very specifically, we're going to the capital city, which is Muscat, and so I'm going to program that flight plan into the box. I'm going to talk to you about the flight plan and how much fuel and everything that we require and the routing that we're going to be taking, and then after that we're going to jump in, program the MCDU. I'm going to show you how I do that as well in this video, and then we're going to commence the flight, push back, start engines, and it's going to be fun and educational, I hope. So let's jump right into it, shall we? I'm going to talk to you now about the flight plan. Okay, here we are. We're looking at our flight plan right now, which is going from Dubai, which is Oscar Mike Delta Bravo, over to Muscat International in Oman, which is designated Oscar Mike Sierra. It is Waypoints Aviation WPA 320, that's our flight number. We're expected to be flying an Airbus A320-200 with the CFM 56-5B4 engines. Now keep this in mind because this is what we want to check once we start the programming of the MCDU. We're gonna have a cost index of 25, but that number can change depending on your airline as per their economy status. And then we are expecting a zero fuel weight today of 55,270 kilograms, which is going to give us an approximate estimated takeoff weight of 62,153 kilos. That's with the fuel and everything on board. And it works perfectly for us because the maximum takeoff weight is 78 tons and our maximum landing weight is 66 tons. Now keep in mind all these numbers because I'm going to explain them to you later. Scrolling down, you can see that we've got a block fuel requirement of 6,602 kilograms. We do have that on board the aircraft. I've requested for it and they have loaded it on, so we've got that. Scrolling down, we've got our alternate information. Today's alternate is going to be Fujairah, and that's going to be Oscar Mike Foxtrot Juliet, expecting runway 29 in Fujairah, and that's the routing that we're going to take to get there. It says flight level 280 is what our estimated cruising today is, but I'm going to cut that down to probably flight level 210, which is 21,000 feet, because it's a very short flight. It's like 30 minutes or less. And here's the most important thing we're going to be paying attention to. This is what we want to program into our flight plan. So we're taking off from Dubai. We're expecting to get runway 12 right for our departure, which is very good because we're currently parked at Foxtrot 9, and so it's going to be a very short taxi for us to get to the runway, which is very nice for us. We're going to use the Anvix 5 Golf SID, which is going to take us out to Anvix. From Anvix, we're going to join the Lima 223 airway, and that's going to have us exit at Tardi. From Tardi, we're going to jump onto the November 629 airway and fly to Muscat, however you want to pronounce that.
So please, Sarakap, whatever.
Once we get to Muscat, it's going to be the Muscat 1 Victor Star standard terminal arrival route into Oman, Oscar Mike Sierra, where we're expecting to do an ILS for runway 08 left. So if you scroll down a bit more, you can see, I hope I can zoom in on this for you. Let's see. Yep, I can. So we're parked over here at Foxtrot 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to push back and we're going to face east. So we'll push back, the tail goes this way and we'll be pointing this way, and it's going to be a very short taxi for us. So we'll just basically come along and we're going to take this Kilo 1 exit and we're going to cross over from the Zulu taxiway onto the Kilo taxiway, and then we could probably hold short at Kilo 1 or even Kilo 2, but I'm going to try for Kilo 1. So from Foxtrot 9 straight down Kilo 1 over there, we're going to hold short and then we'll jump onto runway 12 right. As you can see, it's runway 12 right over here, and then after that, take off. Once we take off, we're going to be joining an SID. I do have an SID chart over here. So that's Dubai Airport right there, a full blown up image, and here is our SID. So we are looking at the SID chart, which is 10-3 Charlie, effective from the 21st of May, my birthday ironically, and it is indeed for our SID, which is ANVIX 5 Golf, and this is its identifier. Alright, ANVI 5G. This is what you're going to look for in the FMC, alright, as a short form, and it is for runway 12 left and 12 right departures. So we take off from runway 12 right, we head out in a runway direction of about 120 degrees. Our first waypoint is Astus, where we have to be at 5,000 feet or below. That's what this line is. So we have to be at 5,000 or below. That we cannot exceed 5,000 at this juncture here. Once we get past that, we're going to go all the way to Delta Bravo 469. It's about 10 miles, where we have a speed constraint of 220 knots, and we've got to be 4,000 feet or higher. That's what the line is underneath that. Well, we're going to be 5,000 or below, so we're going to be all right. And anyway, in Dubai, the initial climb is always set to 4,000, so we should be at 4,000 or maybe even higher once we get there. Make a slight right-hand turn to 133 degrees, and it's a 14.4 track miles down to Lubab. From Lubab, we're gonna turn right again to a heading of 155 degrees, or a track rather of 155 degrees, 6.6 miles to Lopov. From Lopov, we're gonna make a left-hand turn to 125 degrees, and we're going to get to ANVIX. ANVIX is where we're going to exit this SID, and we need to be 10,000 feet or higher. So that's the SID that we have for today, and it's going to take us all the way down in the direction of Oman. Once we get there, we got a few more waypoints along the airways that we're going to cross, and then after that we get to our star. I'll talk to you about the star once we're up in the cruise, and you know, when we're preparing for our descent, that's when I'm going to talk to you about the star and the arrival and the whole procedure that entails with it. Moving down, these are all the charts we have for the arrival, but over here, as you can see, we're going to be taking off, and as we go along, we do have some terrain that's probably as high as 5,000 feet along our route, but we're going to be climbing to 21,000 feet anyway, so we're going to be all right. So this is the flight plan, and now what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you how we're going to program all of this into the MCDU and get the flight ready for departure. Alright, here we are in the cockpit, and just getting ready for programming the MCDU, programming the flight, and getting ready to go. So I want to, over on the glare shield, I just want to make sure the flight directors are on, and I'm going to be using the navigation display as a reference for what I program into the MCDU. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to come over here, turn on the constraints so I can see the speed and altitude limitations along the way on our waypoints. I want to go all the way to plan mode, which is what that screen is over there. and then I want to go out maybe about 40 miles to begin with. So that gives me a decent range on the screen and I can see what I'm programming in. And now we're going to start programming the MCDU. The first thing I want to look at is I'm going to go over to FMGC. And as you can see, we've got Airbus A320-200, that's correct as per the flight plan. CFM56-5B4 engines, that is also correct. We're in the actual aircraft that we need to be in, and we're running the correct engines that's required as per the flight plan. And if you look at the navigational database, the active database is valid until the 30th of November 2022, which is very well within our dates right now. So the database is valid, and it's very important that you make sure that this is valid before you start programming in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up the flight plan, and I'm going to show you how we're going to program this flight plan into the box, and then we'll start getting ready for the rest of the flight. Alright, so here we are. We're now going to start programming the flight plan in. So as discussed, we were going to be going from Dubai to Oman, Muscat International. So we already did the initial checks. So the aircraft type is correct, engines correct, the database is valid. So remember div strip. I've explained this in episode 2, but just in case you didn't get to see it, I'm going to leave a link to it in the description box below. You can always click on that, go and watch that video, and then come back to this if you like. But then for the sake of making sure that you get everything from this video, I'm going to do it right now and program it in for you. So we're going to do div strip, which is D-I-F-S-R-I, and then back to P again. Alright, so div strip, data, aircraft status, we check that. Now we go to I. So we're going to start programming in all those orange boxes. So we're going to start with the identifier for Dubai, which is OMDB. Make sure it's nice and clear in the scratch pad. Always keep a clean scratch pad. /OOMS. Put it right there. Dubai to Oman, right there. Our alternate today is OMFJ, Fujairah. Put it there. Flight number is WPA 320. Put it there. Cost index today, 25. That's in there. Cruising flight level for today, 210. Put it in there. Next thing we want to do, so that's the D, I done, F. So we start on the flight plan page, confirmed our flight number up there, and here's Dubai, here's Oman. So we start on the top because obviously we're going to take off before we land. So let's go for Dubai. We're going to go into departures. We're selecting runway 12 right, and we want the ANVIX 5 Golf, which is identified in the chart as ANVI 5G. There it is right there. Select it. As you can see, runway and SID selected, pre-selected in yellow. So we just want to confirm that we have no transitions. Insert. Now, and as you look at the navigation display, as I've been programming everything in, they're starting to appear, all those waypoints. Now when you're in flight plan mode, as you press the up button, you can cycle the waypoints, and as you can see, it moves along. And you just want to make sure that the constraints and speed constraints and altitude constraints along the way are over there. That's why we turn constraints on in the first place. And as you can see, it takes us all the way to ANVIX. Alright, there we go. ANVIX 10,000 feet or higher, exactly like in our charts. Now from ANVIX, what are we going to do? We're going to jump onto an airway. So into ANVIX, you see airways, select airways. Lima 223 is what we want to jump onto. Gonna exit that at Tardi. T-A-R-D-I, put it in there. So right now we've just told the aircraft that we're going from ANVIX to Tardi via the Lima 223 airway. From Tardi, we're going to jump onto another airway, which is the November 629 airway, and going to exit at Muscat. M-U-S-U-K. There you go. Muscat. So ANVIX to Tardi via the Lima 223 Ruba was what I almost said, and from Tardy to Muscat via the November 629. Alright, so that's in there. As I'm going to insert that, and then as you cycle along looking at our flight plan, you can see that Muscat should be the last one there. Alright, excellent. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to program the rest of our departure just for the sake of having it in there. I'm going to go into Oman, our destination, click on arrivals, and I'm going to select an ILS runway 08 left via, and I want to go via MCT. Alright, ILS 08 left via MCT, and I'm going to tell you why I've selected that once we get closer to our descent in Muscat, and we're talking about our plan, our flight plan into Oman and the approach. Okay, so I'm going to insert that, and if you press the flight plan page, it brings you back to the beginning. If you push the airport button, it takes you to the very end of the flight plan. So coming back to the top of the flight plan, everything looks good. All the relevant waypoints that we need are in there to get us towards Oman. So that's the flight plan done. Now we go to secondary flight plan. I'm going to make a copy of the active flight plan. Now as you can see, because we copied the main flight plan, it's still showing us Dubai to Oman. But I want to change that destination over to towards a destination back to Dubai. The reason I want to do that is because just in case we take off and we have an engine failure or any kind of malfunction on the airplane, before we get any further, Dubai being a nice big airport with the long runways, I prefer to come back to Dubai. It's also my point of origin, so it would be easier for me to come back to Dubai so I can make onboard arrangements for passengers and stuff like that. So it's so much more better to come back to your point of origin. So I want to change this to be a flight plan back to Dubai. How do we do that? I'm glad you asked. So we're gonna take any waypoint in the middle. By the way, this is inside the secondary flight plan. Alright, don't forget that. Take any waypoint in the middle. Astus, for example. And you're gonna see new destination right there. Okay? So I'm gonna put OMDB into that new destination. And look at that. What was Oman is now Dubai again. So now I can go into Dubai, arrival, and I'm gonna put the ILS 12 right, no stars. And if you look over here in white, if I zoom in just a little bit, see that right there? That is our flight plan, secondary flight plan, coming back to runway 12 right in Dubai. So if ever something happens while after we take off, an engine goes kaboom or something happens and we need to come back immediately, all we have to do is jump right into secondary flight plan and activate it using the LSK4 key, and we're good to go, and immediately that will become active. So this is important to have as a secondary flight plan. All right, now if I come back to RadNav, I just want to check. By the way, I did DIFS, now I'm on the R, which is RadNav. Now here you want to program any VORs that you need to track inbound and outbound, and you want to check the ILS frequencies. However, we do not have any VORs here in Dubai, so I'm going to leave them in auto tune, which is the small letters. If they were manually tuned, you'd see them as big letters, but I'm going to keep them auto tuned. So press clear, make it auto tune. But I really want to check here is the ILS is correct, the frequency is correct as per the chart for runway 12 right, and that the course is correct, 119 degrees. That is absolutely correct, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Cool. Alright, that's the R part. Now we come to the init page, but you see the arrows there? That means there's another page, so we're going to cycle through that by using the side arrows. So side arrow here, and this is asking us for some performance information today. Alright, so we have a zero fuel weight today of 55.2, and our center of gravity today is going to be, stand by, I'm just going to look it up right now for us. It's 26%, 26. Alright, so 55.2 for the zero fuel weight, 26 on RCG, put that in there. The block fuel today is 6,600 kilos, break it down to 6.6. that goes in there. Now it's going to do some calculations, doing some maths, and it's going to let us know what it thinks about our weights today. So looking at this, we can clearly see that we've got a takeoff weight of 61.6 and we've got an estimated landing weight of 59.8, which is very good because, as I showed you earlier, our maximum landing weight on this aircraft is 66 tons. We're going to be 59.8 tons as a landing weight. So that is absolutely brilliant for us. In case something goes wrong, we can quickly activate the secondary flight plan, come back and land the aircraft without having to do any overweight landing checklist, and it's going to be perfectly safe to land the aircraft with this weight on board. Okay, so that's the weights of the aircraft. It's happy. We've got perfect amount of endurance, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to P. So DIFSRIP. That's the final performance page. So what we want to do is we have to do our checks. I did mention that our CG today is going to be 26%. So if I look over at the checklist, 26% is about an up trim, a nose up trim of about 0.5. So we're going to take flaps 1 today, nice long runway, and slash our trim today is up 0.5. Going to put that in there. According to the calculations, we can do a flex takeoff of 67 degrees. And our takeoff speeds today are going to be 135 for the V1. That's the point of no return. After 135, we can't stop on the runway. Whatever happens, we have to commit to the takeoff and get the aircraft airborne. Our rotation speed today is 137. That's when it's going to be safe for me to pull back on the side stick, get the aircraft pointing towards the sky. And lastly, it's going to be 140 for our V2. This is a 2-engine aircraft, so in case we lose an engine, the V2 speed is what we have to maintain to make sure we stay airborne. And our transition, oh, that was a tongue twister. Our transition altitude, as per the charts, is 13,000 feet, so that's correct in there. And thrust reduction acceleration is going to be 1511. Even the engine out acceleration can be 1511, and that can be changed if you want to, but I'm going to keep it there as default. So that's basically it. And what we want to do now is we're just going to set up the rest of the cockpit and get the flight going. So I'm going to do that by putting the thing back in arc mode, and I'd probably like to be 10 miles from now. Excellent. Let's get on with the rest of the flight. Okay, here we are in the cockpit, and I'm trying a new head mount, so you guys let me know if you like this or not. It's pretty much gluing a camera to my face, but I kind of like it, and I hope this is going to give you a proper view of what I see and how I interact with the cockpit in front of me. So here we are. We've programmed our flight plan. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go from plan mode, which it was in, to arc. Make sure constraints are on, and we've got 10 miles in. So when I look over there, I can see the runway more clearly, and everything looks good to me. So what we want to do now is a very quick check of the weather. We took this earlier. So our weather today in Dubai, the winds are coming out of 180 degrees. It's a southerly wind, and it's blowing at 4 knots. It's cav-okay conditions, 30 degrees Celsius, and I can see that right over there as well. And the QNH today is 1017. It's very important to get that correct. So 1017 set there, and 1017 set on the first officer's side. I have an invisible first officer here, and he's decided not to work, so I'm pretty much going to be doing everything today. So you relax, I'll take care of it. So we got the winds, we got the flight plan programmed in nicely. We want to have performance on my side, flight plan on the first officer's side. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to tuck my iPad away, and I'm just going to store the tray table. And now we just want to start the flight. So going through our checklist right over here, We've got the cockpit preparation. Gear pins and covers are removed. Fuel quantity 6,600 kilos on board the aircraft right there. That's very good. Seatbelt signs, they are turned on. ADIRSs are in nav. That's all the way up here. They're in nav, and we can confirm again MCDU, data, and the IRS monitor. All three are in nav. That's looking brilliant right over there. And the barrel reference 1017 is set both sides. Altitude reading 40 feet there as well. So all good. And now what we want to do is a quick before start checks. Parking brake is currently set. Takeoff speeds and thrust is set on both sides. So we've got our takeoff speeds over there, 35, 37, 140, thrust reduction acceleration 1511. And windows are closed, and I'm gonna make sure right now that they close the doors as well. The cabin doors and everything are also closed right now. I mean, they're still open, so we're gonna get them to close those shortly. Gonna turn on the beacon, which is the last item on there, and that should get the doors closing and pretty much ready for our departure. Okay, so about to start our pushback, and I've just done a quick brief of the first officer as well, even though he's invisible. And just want to confirm that the doors are closed. They are, in fact, all doors are closed and all slides are armed. Coming up here, I want to make sure the beacon is turned on. It is turned on, and the strobes are in auto as well. Initial climb today is going to be 4,000 feet right over there. That's confirmed and set. We've got climb blue, nav blue, and 4,000 set right over there as well. All good. So now we're just going to request our pushback and get the flight going. So what I want to do here is release the parking brake, lift, twist to the left, parking brake is released, and now I'm gonna request the push. Here we go, we're pushing back. Once we get away from the gate, we're going to be starting the engines, and we're going to be on our way. So we're comfortably away from the gate right now. So what I want to do is I'm going to start the main engine. So coming down here, we want to make sure the engine mode selector goes to ignition start, brings up the engine page over there. And now we want to start engine number 2. That's this switch right over here, up and forward. That's going to start the N2 rotation. EGT is starting to rise a little bit. Fuel's coming in. EGT is rising. N1 starting to rise as well. Gonna set the parking brake again. Pushback's complete. And we have a successful start of engine number 1. Let's start engine number 2. Lift, come forward. N2's rising on the engine number 1. Looking for about 22% right there. Okay, 22%, fuel comes in. EGT starting to rise, N1 starting to rise, PSI is starting to rise. At about 55-56% N2, we want that gray box to disappear, and that's going to confirm that everything is ready. So that clicking sound you hear, that's the bus system of the electricals transferring over to the main engines. So there we go, looking nice and good. We've got 2 successful engine starts, nice and stable, and it's green all the way down. Alright, next thing we want to do is put this back to normal. And we're going to arm the spoilers, reset the rudder trim, set our flaps to number 1. Want to make sure the flaps are moving. Alright, flaps are in 1. Coming back up here, APU, we don't need it anymore, so we're going to put the APU bleed off and the APU master off. And we check that we need, if we need anti-ice, we don't need anti-ice, so we're going to keep those off as well. And here we are, we're pretty much ready for our taxi. Okay, so pushback is ready. So what we want to do now is very quickly have a look at our checklist. The after start checklist, anti-ice is not required. ECAM status is checked. We can do that one more time. Everything's normal. And I just want to set the pitch trim right now. So the trim we wanted today was up 0.5. So we're going to bring this wheel back to 0.5 on the pitch trim, up 0.5. And our rudder trim should be neutral. Rudder trim is neutral. Alright, that's good. We got our taxi clearance as well, so let's get going. First thing I want to do, turn on the taxi light, runway turn off light, and I'm going to release the parking brake again, and I'm going to give about 20%, 30% of N1, and going to start rolling. I'm going to use the tiller to steer the aircraft. And as we're rolling along, doing quick brake check, squeeze the brakes, aircraft is slowing down. Fantastic, so we're going to continue going along. Keep the power going in there, using the thrust levers, using the tiller to keep the airplane nice and straight along the way. And we're just going to finish up the rest of our items. So we want to put the auto brakes to max. Finish the takeoff configuration as well. Gonna get the weather radar on. Gonna get the transponder to TA and RA. Altitude reporting on. Transponder to standby. Looking good. And right over here, just want to make a left turn right over here. So I'm going to take that exit out towards the left. And here we go, straight ahead. Coming up is Kilo 2. And I'm going to go straight ahead, lining up with Kilo 2. Alrighty, so all things are good. Flight controls are checked. Flap setting is set. Config 1+F, that's looking good. Radar predictive wind shear is on. Engine mode selector is normal, and the takeoff memo is takeoff, no blue items. So we are more or less pretty much ready to go. Gonna check to the left. Everything's clear on the left. Everything's clear on the right. Landing lights come on, nose light to taxi, strobes can go on as well. Gonna give a little double buzz for the cabin crew to be seated. 4,000 set initial climb. And let's get this aeroplane on the road. Well, on the runway rather. Nicely lining up with the runway. Beautiful. Alright. Okay, we're pretty much ready to go. Alrighty, so I'm gonna put my left hand on the side stick and I'm going to set the power on for takeoff. So the first thing we want to do is we want to bring the thrust levers to 50% N1. Make sure they both spool up together. Very nice. And we're going to engage flex. 1, 2 clicks, and there we go. Manflick 67 SRS runway, auto thrust blue. We're rolling. A little bit of forward pressure on the side stick. Just a forward pressure on the side stick just to until 100 knots. Airspeed alive and climbing. There's 100 knots. Using the rudder pedals to keep it in the middle. V1 and rotate. Here we go. Taking it up to 12.5 degrees. We've got nav. We've got a positive rate of climb, so we're gonna go gear up. Here comes the gear. And just using the side stick just to keep the aircraft on that flight director. Nice and stable. Beautiful. So we are in nav mode, which means we're now tracking our pre-programmed flight plan. Feet off the rudders, don't need them anymore. We're coming up on 1,500 feet very soon. There we go, 1,500 feet. It says lever climb flashing there, which means we bring the thrust levers. Forward to climb, thrust climb, climb, auto thrust white. And continuing to maintain our flight director nicely down the middle of that cross using the side stick. And it is a beautiful day for flying. Okay, I'm gonna turn on the autopilot now. AP1. AP1 is confirmed right over there. And our next waypoint is Astus, and that's where we're going. We need to be at 5,000 feet or below. We're currently crossing 3,000 for 4,000. Gonna zoom out a little bit so I can see the next waypoint, which is Delta Bravo 469, 4,000 feet or higher, and 220 knots is what we need to maintain. We've got the S speed right there, so we're going to go flaps up, and when you do that, you store the speed brakes and you put the 2 outer lights off. So there we are, 4,000. We want to be 4,000 or higher, so I'm going to assume that ATC is giving us a clearance to go up to 21,000, so I'm going to dial in 21,000 over there, and I'm going to manage that climb. So thrust climb, climb, and here we go. We're climbing up all the way to 21,000, 210 blue. Aircraft is working very well. Once the autopilot comes in, you can actually take a breather, and things get a little bit better for you. We are not that heavy, so we're climbing really fast right now because it wants to maintain 220 knots, so it's actually exchanging speed for altitude right now. Once we get to 220, it's going to bring the nose down a bit and give us an angle to maintain a climb for 220 knots at this power setting. There we are. There's 220 knots, and the nose is coming down a bit. There's 8,000, so we had to be 4,000 or higher. We're already 8,500 feet. Well within our constraints as required. And now we're going to come up to 10,000, so 10,000 checks are coming in very soon. Lineup was done, departures all done, all checked is complete. So there's 10,000. So at 10,000 feet, what you want to do is you want to turn off the main retractable lights. Gonna check the weather. If the weather is clear, gonna turn off the seatbelt signs so that the crew in the back can start the service. So we've been sitting in the cruise right now at flight level 210, and you can see 210 right over there, nicely settling in. It's been a non-eventful flight so far. Everything's looking good, all systems are go. So now I need to start programming my descent and my approach and arrival into Oman. So as for the flight plan, we were going to be doing the Muscat 1 Victor. So that's Muscat 1 Victor. This is the chart. So it starts over at Muscat, and then from Muscat, what we want to do is we're going to go over to a waypoint called Bubil, which is right on the Muscat 1 Victor. Okay, from Bubil, we're looking to do an ILS into runway 08 left. So I'm using plate 11-1. Effective from the 6th of November in 2020. ILS and localizer runway 08 left. Alright, frequency is 108.9, 084 degrees is the course, and the final approach altitude is going to be 2,200 feet. And coming down here, this is what's important here. So as we pass Muscat over there and we come into Bubil, from Bubil we're gonna go straight down towards the MCT VOR right over there. So from the VOR, it's gonna be 6,000. We have to fly over the VOR at 6,000 feet, and after that we're gonna go outbound for 12 miles to Delta 28.6 left. And by Delta 28.6 left, we're going to have to be at 3,400 feet, where we'll make a left-hand turn towards Itlak. There's Itlak right there. From Itlak, we're going to descend down to 2,200 feet by the time you reach Foxtrot 08 left, which is our final approach fix. And then we can start the descent, capturing the glide slope and localizer coming down to the runway. Our minimums today is going to be 255 feet. And looking over here, in case of a go around, the missed approach procedure is climb on runway heading to 510 feet, then turn left, maximum speed is 210 knots. To follow a radial of 040 MCT, climb into 2,800 feet, then turn left, maximum speed 220 knots to VOR at 6,000 and hold. So there's the procedure right there. Going out 040, turning back towards the VOR and maintaining 6,000 feet in a hold until the clearance to come back. So that's the flight plan. So now I need to program all of this into this little guy over here. So as you can see, we're getting close to our top of descent, which is right over there. And if I zoom out a little bit more, now we want to just pretty much select Muscat. So we're gonna be quick over here. We're gonna go to flight plan, and we're going to choose runway over here, arrival, and then on the arrival we want to choose ILS 08 left. Our star is going to be Muscat 1 Victor. There it is, Muscat 1 Victor. And then we want to come over here in the Vias and choose Via MCT. Alright, and if we go over into plan mode, and you can see right over there, there's the flight plan. I'm going to insert this, and now as we cycle through our flight plan, you can see there's Muscat 9,000 feet, and then after Muscat we've got Bubil, and then from Bubil over to MCT out to Delta Bravo Delta 286 Lima, and then from there over to Itlak, and then Itlak onto the final approach fix. So everything's looking good right there, and I'm going to do a managed descent onto this approach. So the final approach altitude is 2,200 feet, as it says right over there. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to dial 2,200. So bring this all the way back to 2,200. 2,200 set, come back to arc, and we're going to start the descent now. So what we're going to do is we're going to push this button in, and then we're going to get thrust idle, descent, alt magenta, there's our constraint over there. It says it needs some more drag, so we're just going to deploy the speed brakes a bit, let them slow us down, get us onto the profile that we need to be. So we've started our descent, and now that we've started our descent, we need to make sure that we've got the instruments set up as well. So the QNH in Oman right now is QNH 1016, so I'm going to push this in over here and push this one over here as well. QNH 1016, 1016 as well over there, and yep, 1016, 1016. So right now we're reading the correct altitude as well. We're descending, seatbelt signs coming back on, and now we're going to continue on with this descent all the way down. So hopefully we can reach our target, which is Muscat at 9,000 feet, and it's looking like we're going to be on that profile. So looking good. And as I get closer, I'm gonna bring you back in, and we're going to continue with the rest of the approach. So the descent's happening. You can actually see Oman in the distance. There is the mountains of Oman over there. And what I want to do is I also want to confirm that I've put all the details in. So I'm going to go to performance, next phase, and we're going to put the QNH 1016. Temperature is 29 degrees. Beautiful day in Oman. Winds are 010 out and 7 knots. And our decision height was 255. Putting that over there. So that information is in there as well. And our approach speed is going to be 136 as well. We're going to use a full configuration landing. So that's pretty much set up right there as well. Now that we've gone below 10,000 feet, coming up here, I'm going to turn on the landing lights. I'm going to turn on the seatbelt signs as well. And yeah, we're just going to keep monitoring the system, make sure that the aircraft is doing what it has to do. So it knows that we have to be at below 9,000 feet, but not less than 8,000 feet by Bobil. So that's what it's doing right now. It's gently descending us down to 8,000 feet. You can see the 8,000 constraint over there. And that's the waypoint coming up right over there. Speed brake's not required anymore, so I can store the speed brake, and we're just going to continue with the flight. So once we get to Bobil, the aircraft is now going to maintain 8,000 feet until we cross Bobil. And once you get past Bobil, then the next altitude restriction is going to be 6,000 over at MCT, which is the VOR, and we're about 36 miles from MCT. So this is how the managed system and the managed descent of the Airbus works. You know, you just have to make sure you program everything into the box correctly, and as long as you do the correct selection, the aircraft pretty much does everything for you. I've dialed in 2,200 because that's our final approach fix, but because it's a managed descent, the aircraft knows where it has to stop descending and where it needs to continue descending. So 8.5 miles from Bobil, and once you cross Bobil, it's going to then continue descending from 8,000 down to 6,000. It will stay at 6,000 at MCT, and then once it passes MCT, it's going to continue descending down to 3,400 by this waypoint here, and then all the way down to 2,200 by the time we reach our final approach fix over there. So the aircraft is pretty much programmed to do it all. This landing is going to be a low auto brakes landing. So I'm going to pre-select that, and coming back to the status page, everything's looking good here, no problems on the airplane so far. Coming over to our progress page, and yep, we're about 30 miles away from touchdown, so very soon we're going to be on the ground. Now just continue enjoying the view. So here we go, we're just crossing Bobil right now. That should change over to MCT. There we go, MCT. It knows the next altitude it's supposed to descend to, and the aircraft is just going to continue descending. So it's left 8,000 now, and it's going to continue down to 6,000. We're very much on our profile as well, so looking good. By the way, if you guys have been seeing a bit of a rainbow effect on your screen, don't worry about that. There's nothing wrong with your monitor. It's basically how the camera I'm using captures the refresh rate of the projectors and the different colors that we have in these HD projectors. So don't worry, there's nothing wrong with your eyes, and there's definitely nothing wrong with your screens. It's just how the camera is picking up our projector screens over there. Cool. Nice and steady on our descent. Looking good. There's Oman. There's actually Muscat's right over there. I wonder if you can see the airport. Not yet, but very soon. So as we've been going along on our descent, you see this little magenta colored donut? That's our descent profile. And as you can see, we're right on the profile. If you look down here on the progress page, our deviation is like -1 feet, and that is really good. So we're pretty much on profile, and we're pretty much coming up right over the airport. You can see it right over there. So we're going to overfly the airport, make a left-hand turn, come outbound, and then swing around again, and come to land right down there on runway 08 left. So we're getting close to the landing. And we're right on profile for our descent, so MCT 6,000 is right there, and everything's looking good. Now if you're coming over here, we've got a track distance of 22 miles to go. So track distance would be from here to here, here to the other point, and from that point down to the final approach fix. So the track distance that you have to fly is going to be 21 miles, and the aircraft is currently maintaining 250 knots. So once I get to about 15 miles, I'm going to activate the approach phase, which is going to get the aircraft to slow down to what we call a green dot speed, and that's going to help us maintain a flaps ready speed right over the airport actually, and then we can start retracting the flaps and getting the aircraft ready for the arrival. So we're coming up right over that. We're 2.2 miles from MCT. According to the flight plan, we need to fly outbound 12 miles to Delta 286 Lima. So aircraft is pretty much coming to a level at 6,000 feet. The aircraft has started to slow down its constraints to 220 knots, which is perfect. It's doing exactly everything it has to do. Here we go, we're starting our turn. Outbound to Delta 286 Lima, 12 miles. Still on profile, looking good. We're now 16 miles from touchdown. Track miles, 16. So I'm gonna wait for 15, and then I'm gonna activate the approach phase. Gonna activate the approach phase now. Go into performance, activate the approach phase, and confirm. So that's gonna stop the aircraft from trying to go high speed, and it's gonna maintain the green dot speed, which is right over there. That green dot speed, that's our minimum flap speed, or rather our minimum clean speed. So with the flaps up and retracted, basically 220, this green dot speed, which is calculated clean speed of 208 knots, is what we can maintain. And that's looking out very well for us. We're over there, still on profile. And what we want to do is, if you look over here, you'll notice these little amber markers here. That's the flap exceed speed. So as long as your speed is below this amber marker, it's safe for you to retract the flap. So that's what I'm going to do right now. In fact, as I get closer to our descent, I'm going to actually deploy a flap right now to help us slow down. So we're going to come up over here, check the speed, and flaps 1 is selected. There's flaps 1. The aircraft is going to now start slowing down to what we call the S speed. And just above the S speed, you did another orange marker, which is telling us that's when flaps 2 is going to be available. Profile's looking good. Once you reach Delta Bravo, Delta 286 Lima, I'm going to engage flaps 2 as well. For now, I'll just continue enjoying the view. We've just reached Delta Bravo, Delta, why do I keep saying Delta Bravo? Delta 286 Lima. We're starting our turn. I'm going to get the landing screen on. ILSs are on. That's going to display the ILS information right over there. It is 108.9, confirmed. And I'm going to go for flaps 2 now. There's flaps 2, selected, and moving. We've got flaps 2, aircraft is slowing down to its to the F speed. And now what I want to do is, as we make our turn towards the final approach fix, I want to go ahead and arm the localizer. I'm going to assume ATC's cleared us to capture the localizer and to proceed for the approach. So we're going to press approach, and we're going to push autopilot 2, and that's going to bring the glide slope and localizer in blue, which means they're on standby and ready. We've got a Cat 3 dual capability. Autopilot 1+2 is engaged. Both autopilots are working right now. So nicely descending along. Now we're just going to make sure the aircraft captures and does what it's supposed to do. And this is pretty much what it's like flying the Airbus A320. It's just a really big computer that you just have to keep on programming and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. And as long as you understand the systems and you know how each thing works and how they're connected, flying this aircraft is pretty much a breeze. It is a lot to take in. I mean, the first time I saw all these buttons and switches and was looking through all those procedures before I qualified as an Airbus pilot, I was thinking, no, this is not gonna happen. I do not have enough cranial capacity to remember all of this. But it's been a few years now that I've been flying this bird, and I've been teaching people how to fly it, and I absolutely love this machine. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful plane to fly. I mean, you got all the space in front of you. You got all full control over a joystick, or I mean a side stick over here, which helps you manipulate the aircraft. I'm not going to touch that right now or push the red button because that's going to disengage the autopilot. So pretty much flying the Airbus right now is a dream, man. It's a beautiful airplane to fly. I do respect Boeing and other manufacturers, but if I had the choice, I'd like to have an Airbus. Right now, the lock that was blue became a lock star, which means we're in the process right now of capturing the localizer. Once that star disappears, that means the localizer is captured. So watch that for a few seconds. Alt star, which means it's reached the constraint altitude of 2,200 feet. And it's just in the process of leveling itself out. Okay, the lock star changed to lock, which means now it's confirmed we are on the localizer and it's 2,000 feet left. We're heading straight for the runway now. If you look out the window, the runway is right over there, straight ahead. So now, just gonna hold us here. In fact, we're a little slow right now, so I'm just going to pull this and go from managed to selected speed. And I'm gonna dial in a speed of 160. And we're gonna maintain a speed of 160 until probably 5 miles from the runway. So you can see I've selected it, turned blue, and the aircraft is now accelerating to maintain 160 knots for me, so I don't die of old age before we get to the runway. Looking good. Maintaining 2,200, which is what we need to be at for our final approach fix. Can actually zoom in a little bit more. When the glide slope starts to come in to 1 bar above center, I'm gonna go with the gear down, flaps 3, and start preparing the aircraft for the arrival. See the red lights of the runway in the distance? I don't know if you can, but I promise you it's there. Glide slope's alive. Glide slope is pretty much 1 bar above center right now, so I'm going to go with gear down. Pull, down, gears coming out. Going to select flaps 3. And when you do that, you want to arm the spoiler by pulling up. And you want to get the rest of the lights on. And now we've got glide slope star, which means the aircraft is in the process of capturing the glide slope right now. It's leaving 2,200, starting its descent on the glide slope. Runway's in sight. Glide slope is captured, so once we know the glide slope's captured, we can go ahead and set our go around altitude, which is 6,000 in Oman, and I'm going to go ahead and manage the speed so the aircraft comes back down to the correct speed for our approach. Last thing left to do is flaps full. There you go, flaps are in transition. We've got flaps full, and the landing checklist is more or less complete. If we look at the landing checklist over here, we see ECAM memo should be landing no blue, and that's exactly what it is, landing no blue. So the checklist is complete. There's our runway. Go around altitude set. Our speed is stable. We're on the glide slope. We're on the localizer. Glide slope localizer captured. Capability of the auto land is still very much in place. So all that's left to do now is basically disconnect the autopilot and land the aircraft. Or if I just leave it, the aircraft will go and land all by itself. But that's no fun. So I want to do a bit of manual flying. So just 1,000 feet. We've satisfied the 1,000 foot stabilization criteria. Everything's ready to land. So let's go ahead and land this baby. Alright, here we are. Just gonna take manual control of the aircraft now. Gonna switch off the autopilot. There we go. Autopilot's disconnected, and now I'm hand flying the aircraft down towards the runway. Looking good. Very small maneuvers on the side stick just to make sure that it's doing what we want it to do. There's 500 feet left. 400 feet. Slightly high, gonna bring it down just a little bit.
100 above.
Okay, 100 above. There's 200, we've crossed our minimums. We're continuing with the landing. There we go, 2 reds, 2 whites. Gonna bring the nose up a little bit. Aiming for the touchdown zone. Retard, we're gonna bring the power back to idle. And here we are, we've got touchdown. Using the rudders, keep it center line, nose wheels down, gonna pull, engage reverses. And we're gonna just let the aircraft slow down. So we got reversers, spoilers, reverses green, and decel. 70 knots, I'm gonna come back to idle reverse. And I'm gonna turn off the auto brakes. And I'm gonna go manual braking. Gonna put my hand back on the tiller so I can steer the aircraft on the ground. Still using the rudders. Here comes our exit. Gonna brake a little bit and apply a little bit of right rudder assisted with the nose wheel steering on the tiller. There we go. Slow it down a little bit more, apply a little bit more brakes. And here we are. We've exited at Yankee 5. And we're just gonna go full idle on the reverse thrusters. So the thrust levers are now full idle. And what I want to do is I'm just gonna take it in there and just park over that gate over there, which I think is gate 106. So now that we're clear of the runway, all I'm gonna do now is I'm basically just gonna let the aircraft roll a little bit, and I'm gonna stow the speed brakes, get the flaps all the way up to 0. Weather radar now goes off, transponder goes to standby, and standby. Main retractable lights go off, nose light to taxi, strobes to auto or off, and we're gonna start the APU. There we go. And that should complete the after landing checklist. We're just gonna taxi around. Terrain radar can go off as well. Keep it about 20%, 23% power. Moves in very nice and slowly. APU is starting. So we want Sierra. Taxi point Sierra. Gonna make a turn onto Sierra, and then the first gate on the right will be 106, I think. So that's gonna be our assigned gate. There we go. Bring it nice and gently into the gate. Into the apron, I'm sorry. It's a beautiful airport Oman has. Alright, there's our gate. Gonna let that line go right onto my shoulder, and then I'm gonna start the turn towards the gate. Okay, as we turn in towards the gate, main lights, nose light, runway turn off go off. APU is available as well. Very nice. And in real life, obviously, we'd either have a marshaller down there with his little batons, or we're gonna have a marshalling system. I'm just gonna very gently bring the aircraft in, and I'm gonna stop it right over here. Beautiful. Here we are. Gonna set the parking brake on. Alright, brakes are on. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna shut down engine 1 and 2. So engine 1 off, engine 2 off. And because the APU is running, we're not gonna lose any electricity. There we go. We're switched over to the APU. I'm gonna get the APU bleed going as well. And now I can turn off the beacon. I can turn off the seatbelt signs and no smoking, and I can disarm the emergency lights. And the crew are gonna disarm the slides, open the doors. The ground crew are gonna come over, and they're going to pretty much get the aircraft ready to open up and disembark the passengers. So that's basically how you fly an Airbus A320 from gate to gate. What's gonna happen now is ground crew is gonna come up to the aircraft and they're gonna insert the ground power unit, and they have done so. So external power is available. I'm gonna now tap into external power, and that's going to help us alleviate the load on the APU. Gonna switch off the flight directors, and that's it. We have successfully done a flight from Dubai to Oman, gate to gate. Just want to say a really big thank you for tuning in, for watching the video from the beginning to the end. And once again, please give it a like and a subscribe and share it with your friends, and stay tuned for more videos in our Airbus A320 fixed base simulator. Okay, so that's all from me for now. Thank you so much, and you guys have a wonderful day.